So we need to understand why are we creating digital properties like websites, and for whom are we doing that, and why are these personas coming to our website and what are they going to be doing there. And with that, we actually understand what type of content we need to create.
Welcome to the Agile Digital Transformation Podcast, where we explore different aspects of digital transformation and digital experience with your host, Tim Butera, Content and Community Manager at AgileDrop.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined today by Baddý Sonja Breidert, co-founder and CEO of 1x Internet, a European digital agency. She's also a board member of the Drupal Association. In today's episode, Baddý and I will be discussing content strategy and its role in digital strategy and digital transformation. Welcome, Baddý. It's really great to have you with us today. Is there anything you would like to add to the introduction?
No, I think you had it really well. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's talk content strategy, which has become a very important aspect of business lately. And my first question to you is, why is that? How come that we're talking about content strategy now as kind of this really crucial key of the digital business?
So I think we can start with that we have so much content around us everywhere. We have multiple devices. We have content coming to us in such a speed that we can't even see everything that we want to look at, and we get too much that we don't want to see. So therefore, it's important to actually start looking at the content strategy for your company and be able to have a structure around that. And I think that very many back in the days, we had these static websites, and the static websites just had content on there and you could access it and look at it. But currently, today, people want more content, more information, and therefore it's being put out at such a speed that just needs to be handled correctly.
Yeah, content is king after all, and the nature of content is changing, so you have to keep up with that.
Correct.
And what are the advantages for a business of having a really well-devised content strategy? Why should a business go for it?
So I think, we always talk about this to our clients, that this is the first thing that we just need to do. So we need to understand why are we creating digital properties like websites, and for whom are we doing that? And why are these personas coming to our website and what are they going to be doing there? And with that, we actually understand what type of content we need to create. So I would just say that the main thing is you create relevant content for the users that are coming on your site or on your web property. And that takes a lot of effort. And I often say that the worst thing that happens is that you say, I need a new website, and you go to a designer and say, can you design something cool for me? That's the wrong start, because you first have to find out why and for whom you're doing it.
So if I understand it correctly, it's you can't really outline a content strategy without first clearly defining your mission, your vision. That's what actually enables you to be able to craft a content strategy and start executing on it.
Yeah, exactly. So you start with looking at the business goals of the web property. Or, for example, let's make an example. We are building a website for an airline, and you first would say okay, what's actually the goal of that website? Probably it is to sell seats in an airplane that goes from A to B. And that's just a simplification, and of course there's more things, and it can also be not about the commercial part. It can also just be by providing information, in these difficult times now with COVID, provide others with information. So regardless of what it is, we need to define that. So we define the business goal, or the goal of the site, or the goal of what we are going to be creating. And then we actually, the next step we go into is actually to look at the personas. So who are we talking to? For whom are we actually building this? To decide are we going to present different type of content to each persona, or is it maybe enough that we have the same content for everyone? And this is crucial. And maybe taking the example of the airline a bit further, we could have a trip going to, let's say, Barcelona. I'm now in Germany, and I want to go to Barcelona, and that's a very different thing for me to go to Barcelona if I'm, for example, a family person and I want to bring my family, or if I just want to go there with my best friend to hang out at the beach. So depending on like where I'm coming from, who I am, why I'm doing it, I probably need a very different content provided to me. Being like, that I would like to see like the cool hotel if I go there with my girlfriend and we go to the beach and we hang out, and I want to see maybe some bars and what you can do in the evenings, while maybe when I go with my kids, I maybe want to check out like, is there a zoo or anything like this? So just going through that exercise, and it doesn't have to be complicated to start with, but going through that exercise of learning who is actually coming on your website and creating content for that, it's extremely important. And everyone should do that. And everyone can actually do that.
Yeah, that's a very great point. And you actually mentioned another very key insight here. And it's maybe a bit counterintuitive, but we kind of box these personas. We classify them as, we classify each person under one persona. But now with this example, you made it obvious that basically the same person can have different personas at different stages, in different interactions, on different channels maybe. So yeah, that's a very key insight here.
Yeah, and what also like actually happens is that that's around the context of you as a persona. That's actually what we are talking about in this case. The context. Am I going there with my kids, or am I going there with my best friend to hang out on the weekend? And the context there can be something like a general context. For example, generally, I'm really interested in digital strategy. I'm interested in like everything related to web, digitalization, open source. That's my general interest. But at the same time, I'm also like today interested in something special. And today, for example, I may be really interested in like the trip to Barcelona, and I'm only thinking about that. So every single person, changes also constantly, because maybe when I buy my trip to Barcelona today, maybe then tomorrow I will not be interested in that anymore, and I don't even want to see that content because I've already bought it. So this goes a little bit into personalization and all of that, but still it is very relevant to just sit down, think about it, do these exercises, and there are so many great templates out there. So
okay, this actually leads perfectly into my next question, and that is, how do you approach creating a good content strategy for your business? What are the key elements and like the key things to keep in mind here?
Yeah, so if we start with the personas, which actually leads then also into like much further analysis and deeper analysis of like the user journey, being an example. So normally it is done in a workshop style. That can also be online, but we can also do that like by just asking questions, asking the why. I don't know if you read that book about like asking, the importance of asking why. So I think like asking the client often and going through that with every stakeholder that is involved, not just the one department, but also the sales department and the marketing department and the help desk and the management. Regardless of who it is, like ask those people why it is important. Make sure, try to get these meetings or these people at the table and just to be able to have those conversations. And then it is just a lot of whiteboard drawings, yellow notes, being obviously today just completely online, and mapping this together in order to just at least simplify it then in the end to something that we can work with. Because like if we, taking you back to the airline, this is an endless examples that we can take, because maybe the airline also flies down to Conil in Spain, and it also flies up to Iceland, and so many different scenarios. You can't like maybe tackle everything, but maybe you can just start by focusing on 2 or 3 personas, and then at least you are one step further than the next one.
I'm glad you revisited the airline example, because I think it is relevant and will be relevant again during our conversation at a later stage. But yeah, I wanted to say that this certainly sounds like, if you want to have a successful content strategy, you have to de-silo. You can't have your team siloed. It has to be something that's an organizational goal. It has to be something that all the teams that are involved in it are actually involved in it, and right from the very beginning.
Yeah, 100%. And one of my actually other favorite example is of course government. And government has a challenge. Government and universities has a challenge of like having very many different personas, and and having different like context every time. Being like, for example, me, I'm maybe looking for a school for my kids, but at the same time, I'm looking at my parents are maybe, becoming older, and I'm thinking about like, how can they get the support that they need, or whatever it is. So I think like the larger you are, of course, as a company or as an organization, the more important it is even to just make sure that you map this correctly up and provide the information, and don't let the user search. Give it to the user as early on as possible.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing in user experience, right? If you want to provide a good experience, you have to provide the user with what they want to search for, what they want to find, not like make them run around in circles to get to the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, so if you have already defined your personas, and if you have already defined the user journey of these personas, then of course, like the next step is a little bit about like creating your content. So how do you, so what you then need to start doing is that you need to start like putting up like, how do I actually map my content so the user actually then gets the information in a correct way. So we like when we go through these exercises to like, give us like 3 important things that you want to bring out on the page that you are, creating. And if you have already the persona in your head, you have already the user journey in your head, put this down to what are the 3 most important things that you want to come across, and what are the important things, and what are the less important things, and what are the supporting things. So going again into like templates, tooling, we need to create like some kind of a templates for the user so they can actually fill it out, they can think about it, because they need to be successful also to create their content for their content strategy.
So have you seen this in practice already, or have you already implemented it for a project at 1x Internet, this content templating?
Yes, so this we are doing very regularly, or almost with all our clients. And we do this also with our own website, our own, like when we create content, we have like content briefing documents where we then try to fill it out. Like that goes from, what am I trying to, achieve on that page? For whom is it? But there's also like, there goes also like, what about SEO? Am I making sure that like it's found for what I'm writing it for? That I don't overdo that. What are the keywords that I'm actually want to place in there? How do I want to have the structure of the thing? So the most recent example that we are working on at the moment is for a government. So for a large city. And there, this is extremely important because we have there a page that maybe consists of 15,000 pages.
Whoa.
And I would say each page is actually has important information. It's depending on who you are that comes on this governmental page. It's important. So how do you then like make sure that the person feels comfortable when he comes on that page?
Yeah, and making sure, ensuring that for every single audience persona, and as you mentioned previously, with government organizations, with government agencies, it's a much wider audience pool. It's a much wider pool of available personas.
Yeah, and now we are maybe going a little bit further, but like let's just explore that as well. So now we are actually starting to think about like, how do I enable my content editors? So if we say that we have started the content strategy, and now we know like what our content strategy is and what our goal is, how we want to build up the content, how we want to have the emotional part of the content, maybe with like animation, pictures, videos, or whatever it is. And then like go into like, how am I going to enable the editor actually to be able to do this in a successful way? And how am I going to communicate it to that editor? because then we also go into the UX of the site, and that needs to fit to it as well. So we start to have a lot of stakeholders, from being content strategists, UX designers, content editors, end users. All of them start to play a relevant role in this. But not simple.
Yeah, and it has to work for everybody. It has to work at every level, not just for one single stakeholder group.
Yeah, of course, and that's the challenge, and that is not simple. That's nothing. I don't know if one of the most hardest, difficult things always in web is often the start page. What do I put on the start page? Because all of the stakeholders, they are not, of course they want to, they want their content to be there on the front page, on the top. And at some point you need to make decisions, of course, like if you can somewhat personalize that and make that based on from where the user is coming, that's of course even better. Because if the user has already identified itself in the process, then it would be of course nice to then just like show that user the relevant content that we at least like think it is relevant, but like not always that's possible. So, but it's an interesting thing, and I really enjoy working with these larger organizations and government to just figure this out and play and see what works best.
You enjoy a challenge then, huh?
Yeah, and that, hey, in the end, like we also then need to measure this all and see if our theory about what we thought in the beginning, after doing all these workshops, if that's then correct. So we close the wheel in our company. We close it by saying, now we measure and we take actions if that is not working the way that we actually thought it would be working. So then we start the process again. So it is it's a process that is a circle where you start with the content strategy, then you start building the UX and the design, you start implementing the website, and you in the meantime of course create all the content, and then you like measure if that what we actually said in the beginning is correct. Because if we don't measure that, we of course just assume it, and that's probably not the best way to do.
If you don't measure it, then you don't know if your content strategy is effective. And if you don't know if it's effective, that's basically the same as it not being effective.
Exactly. And we always like to ask the user. So we often display this question in the end of each site and saying, like, was this helpful? And we get a lot of feedback. A lot of the sites, I'm now referring to Icelandic governmental sites that we are working on, we get a lot of feedback there. So we hear from people like, yes, it was great. Or we say like, no, I got stuck. So I didn't know, I was expecting that I would get this, but then I got that. And now I don't know where to go, and I had to start over again. And as soon as you get this feedback from the users, like in their own words, it's even better.
Yeah, that's probably invaluable, because I mean, like, companies spend so much money every year on gathering, feedback from users, and not just anonymous data, but like actual actionable feedback. And if you can get that for free with minimal effort and with basically zero financial investment, then go for it. Definitely go for it.
Yeah, but it's of course a lot of work for somebody to review all that and put that into some kind of a data that makes sense, and but it definitely is a good feedback that we can get by that.
That's true. And it also kind of helps to strengthen the relationship between the user, the visitor, and the brand, because if they actually took the time and actually went ahead and gave you feedback, like it's not something passive, it's something that you have to actively do. It probably means that their experience was satisfactory enough that they kind of want to continue engaging with your brand, because otherwise, why would you want to help them optimize their content if you don't really care about them?
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, if you don't provide this yourself on your own website, they are just gonna, especially if it is a bad review that you're gonna get, you will get that feedback somewhere else. There's a lot of medium out there for Twitter or anything like that people will use in the end. So you better have it, you better have a plan for how to react on that and how to respond on that. I actually heard I was in an interesting call yesterday where I heard that some government here in Europe, I think it was Netherlands, they have a policy to ensure always everything. So if they get like a mention in any medium, like of those that they have, are in control of, they actually ensure you. That's like that's a pretty good feedback loop that you can ask a question and just get an answer.
I think if you want to kind of build your online presence, if you want to build your online community, if you want to kind of build these connections with audiences, I think that's a pretty great rule of thumb to have to kind of, just as a rule, just respond in some ways to all audience engagement.
Yeah, exactly. So going a bit back to the tooling, and I actually wanted to because there's something that I remembered about one of the things that we talk about is the content pyramid. And if you think about a pyramid, that is just you need to structure your content in a way that you have what are the key points on the site, what are the secondary points of the site. Talking about this again, you have to make it so simple for the user, for the editor to just really understand that when I am somewhere on the site, and it needs to be consistent through your site.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just this page should be like that and that page should be like that. It's actually, they should all be structured in a similar way. They can look different depending on what it is, what we're talking about. But we need to be able to give the user the key points, takeaways from this site in order for the user to choose if they want to engage with the site further or not.
Mm-hmm.
And this is maybe something that we have been thinking about, so this has been visualized, for example, in the case that I was talking about earlier in the Icelandic city. So then you create a visualization around your content strategy, so the editors, they can actually see this visually, so they can see okay. And we use methodology there we have islands, and then we have cities, and then we have towns and villages, depending on how important the content is. Is this a city content within an island, or is it just a town content? Town content is maybe just a little bit secondary information, not so important. So you need to create this world around it so everyone understands it. And then maybe in the end, hopefully the user will also understand it by using the website.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up, because I actually, when you started talking about the templates and how editors need to have some kind of structure that they kind of follow, the thought that first popped into my head is you have to visualize it. You have to create kind of visual representations for these templates in order to bring them closer to the people that will be working with them. Because the digital is this, even though we've been working in the digital for years now, we could call ourselves digital experts, I guess, but it's still this abstract entity, right? It's still this abstract world, and we're much more familiar with the physical, real world. We've been familiar with it for a longer time, and if you can get an analogy, especially such a on point one, with something from the real life world that kind of facilitates your understanding of digital, and enables you to perform better in it, to produce better content, to produce better user experiences. And that's key.
Yeah, and so therefore and also going into the user journey, which is also a part of it, you need to start thinking about what are the feelings that the person is going through when the person is going on the site. If the content is, let's go into the airline again. Okay, if the content is about going to Barcelona, well, whoa, my feeling is I'm excited. I am I want to get it done. I want to buy the trip. I'm just I want to plan something. I want to send out a message to my best friend. So understand the feelings that I'm going through when I'm doing it. And if you understand that, you can actually create images and content that actually fits. And I think that's crucial, because it is not about just the main photo of Barcelona. It's about like giving the person this, allowing the excitement to go even further of like, I'm going to go and I'm going to live like, this is what I'm going to buy. I think that's really exciting part of it is to, you have to start working with photographers, you start working with video producers of understanding this as well. So there are very, very, very many people involved in this.
Yeah, it has so many layers, such a detailed endeavor from what we've been saying so far. Just like, I mean, nobody can blame you if your content strategy isn't 100% streamlined, because it's, I mean, you would have to just do that practically. It sounds like such a tough endeavor, such a difficult task to achieve if you don't like dedicate yourself 100% to it.
And I think that's good point. That's good point that you're actually mentioning there, because I think that's underestimated often in companies, that they hire, for example, in marketing people that are good doing marketing, and the content is supposed to be something that just actually happens, and the marketing people are supposed to be often being able to do that, but you often need like content people to be able to do that. And that's maybe the biggest struggle that we see often, is like, in the end, who can execute this strategy that we are creating?
Yeah.
And it is beautiful to have the strategy laid down and everyone is excited and everyone is like ready to go, and then there's nobody to take that forward. So we try to identify in the beginning, like, who is going to take that forward, who is going to be the person or the department that is going to execute this and make sure that this becomes successful. And if the management of the company or the department who is doing it hasn't identified that, we actually try to find that out really early on in the process and make sure that they find the right people to execute it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a key kind of requirement for setting out a content strategy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is how have you seen the explosion of channels in the digital affect the creation of content strategy? I mean, sorry, content creation and content strategy. Like, have you at 1x Internet, have you made any significant changes yourself?
Yes. So we are experiencing that now live in this podcast. That this is exactly something that HL Drop didn't have a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And before that, like, you've been known for your awesome blog, and we read the blog all the time, and thank you for the mentions that we have gotten in the blog. But like, I really like following that blog and read the articles. And I think that now you're taking the step that to do the podcast, and so that's exactly, and the reason is that people like podcasts. Suddenly, I don't know, I don't know when it started, but probably like a year ago or something. Suddenly, everyone was listening to a podcast, and suddenly there was this app on your phone that was always there, and it has all of these podcasts, and it is like, I think, at least a lot of my friends, we just got thrown into this podcast world. And probably it is because we are listening less to radio. We are listening to Spotify, and we are not listening to the radio shows anymore that we were maybe used to. But going into your question, have I seen a change there? Yes, 100%. And in our company, we are now trying to do like internally videos to show people how, for example, onboarding happens. How should you use the tools that we are using in the company, instead of like describing that in a very long document. We try to then do like a small document with screenshots, but also at the same time to do like a video recording. And we haven't started podcasts yet, but I am personally really excited about that. I've also been listening to the podcast of Lullabot for a long time.
Oh yeah,
They've
those
been
are
doing
pretty
this.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing it for a long time, and I enjoy every single show that I listen to there, and so I think that is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And and it comes, of course, with the tools and the apps and everything that is being provided. There's also a lot of like shorter information. So I think like these long articles are not that important anymore. Like these really long ones, it's more about like shorter information.
Yeah, infographics, stuff like that. It's kind of, I think we're seeing this transition to, if people either want video or audio content that's easy to interact with, that you don't have to put effort into consuming it, or if it's textual content, it has to be accompanied by graphic elements, by visuals. So that's why infographics are becoming so prevalent, I think.
I totally agree. And because it is also very different, and that goes back into the persona and the emotions and the how that persona behaves. Is like, I could like videos and podcasts, while you could actually prefer to be able just to browse through the infographics and look at the text. In both cases, we are interested in the same content, but in a different, display in that sense. So, like, of course, like now we're just talking about a really advanced content production and strategy, and but if you manage to do that as a company, you are probably reaching a large audience.
Yeah, very good point there. And on a similar note, we kind of covered one of the major disruptions that's not as recent, but let's move to the most recent disruption of 2020. And I think everybody, both of us and all of our listeners already know what I'm referring to, and that's COVID-19, of course. Have you adjusted your content strategy because of COVID? And like, have you spotted any key trends in the industry? How have you addressed these, if you spotted them?
So I would say that for us as a company, no, we haven't changed our content strategy. But what I see for our clients is that we have a lot of clients that were doing a lot of things offline. They were creating a lot of brochures. They had maybe an internet, but still, like at the office, they were doing a lot of things by displaying stuff on what's for dinner or what's for lunch. They were doing that then maybe on a table or something like that, which is now, of course, all that type of information is just digitalizing. One good example is in the government, of course. Like there's a lot of processes there that are very, very manual. You need to go and you need to print something out, and you need to put your data in there and then give it to someone that takes it and stamps it. And now, of course, like we are seeing this, of course, change into digital media. And I think that's very healthy that's happening. It's actually many companies, I think, just need to wake up and realize that that they need to be able to communicate and work with people that are not coming into their office. So yes, I think I would say that we see a big difference, and that's also why currently for agencies and those who are working in the software industry, of course, there's a lot of work to be done, and that's our job, to help these clients to get this executed in the most effective way as possible, and start maybe small and then becoming better every step in the way, and not just having to like solve it all at once, because that's not possible. And especially now in the COVID-19, you have to act pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, you have to be agile.
Yeah. So in that sense, you have to like and you can't solve it all. It's not like that 4 years ago, maybe someone would have started a big project and that needs to be approved by everyone to digitalize some process. But now, like, it just has to be done, and let's get it done, and then let's iterate and do it better. And I use like good tools and agencies and work in open source, and then everything is good.
Yes, the key things: agencies, open source. Yeah. And this time I'll be the one that will return to your example of the airline company, because that's what kind of interested me. Like, the state of air travel post-COVID is completely different from the end of 2019 or early 2020. Like, were there any specific considerations for this specific client?
So there was actually a really interesting case in Iceland, because we have there an airline, both an international one and domestic one, and of course, that suddenly changed the persona changed. And in the domestic flights, for example, we saw before a lot of foreigners flying around between A and B within Iceland. But now, of course, it's not, there are no visitors in Iceland anymore, because at the moment the country is almost closed, except you have to go into, do a test and all of that. But what we see, of course, now that suddenly the Icelandic people are using the service from flying to A to B. And what happens then is the Icelandic government then also comes in and says hey, those who are living abroad, or not abroad, but not in the capital city, Reykjavik, but those who are living somewhere else, maybe we can give them discounts of coming to Reykjavik, because they cannot be going anywhere else. And so there's thus evolving there a new thing, that now suddenly the government is supporting Icelanders to travel in a domestic, with the domestic airlines. Mm-hmm. Which is great. And they're giving support. They're giving in that case, it was 40% discount for everyone who's flying to the capital city and lives abroad, lives not in the capital city. And this is something that the government decides to do to make sure that the economy is still working. So is that enough for the airlines, for your exact question? I'm not sure, but at least we can get that working at the moment. But for the international airlines, it's of course hard, right?
Yeah.
And will be for a long time probably now. So nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. So we just all sit there and try to do our best. And
yeah, that's actually exactly why I wanted to revisit this in the context of COVID, because as soon as you mentioned that you're working with an airline company, I was like, whoa, that has to be completely different now post-COVID than it might have been last year or something. Yeah, I can imagine that there's no definitive answer or clear-cut strategy. It's just I just wanted to hear your experience here. Yeah.
So I think it would be really interesting to actually, so agencies in our software agencies in our business, we actually see a lot what is happening in the industry. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of we have clients that are running museums. We have clients that are having ships to go from A to B, and we have clients that are in government. And you see actually what is going on, and it's clients that are selling food to restaurants. So I think the government could probably ask digital agencies about how is the business going. But a lot has changed, and of course us being a remote company as well, a lot has changed for us. And I miss going to conferences. I miss meeting the team. Yeah. I miss meeting the HL Drop team at an event and hang out and talk about something nice. But now we just hang out on Zoom or Google.
And don't worry. I mean, even if it takes a few years, we'll get all those things back. We'll reunite at the conference again.
Yeah, but I really appreciate it. I want to say that. So I got a present from HL Drop, and it was so nice. There was something that I was sent by post, and that was so smart. And I just thought it was because we normally meet on a conference and hang out there, and various conferences. For example, our company and your company, and we're friends for a long time in the Drupal world. And then I got this post with a notepad to write on and a little card, and just stay safe or whatever it was said there. So or it was for Christmas. I don't remember when it was, but doing stuff like this just matters. And I think, more could just take that approach and because we are not meeting in person, right?
Yeah, thanks for the shout out and the praise. It's definitely, it means a lot that you not only spotted it, but that you actually it stuck with you. It left a positive impression on you. It's great.
Yeah, and I just that's just great. And I think like now, for example, I've been to a couple of conferences, so afterwards I've been getting like t-shirts sent. And so I was like attending a Drupal Camp Colorado, which I obviously did not attend in person, but I attended it online, and now I have a t-shirt that I was in Drupal Camp Colorado, and I think it is really cool. Even though I was just sitting at home putting the kids to bed and then going to my conference.
but that's the innovations, that's what a crisis such as COVID kind of spurs us to do. It's like, okay, how do I provide as much of the same experience as with an in-person conference in a virtual conference?
Exactly. And that you need as a company to think as well. So as a company, you need to like rethink how you were doing things and see if you can maybe transform that into something digital. And even like just engage with your customers, just like you said, by them just sending them something. You probably have their data anyways in some kind of a form. So it doesn't cost much to send a thank you note or something like that, and that will stay, definitely. That should be part of your content strategy as well.
Yeah, definitely. At least a post-COVID content strategy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, Baddý. Before we finish the call, I just want to ask you, if people want to reach out or learn more about you, where can they do that?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm actually doing a workshop in DrupalCon Europe that will take place in the 8th of December to the 11th of December. So it is a virtual conference, DrupalCon Europe. And I am there doing a workshop, a hands-on workshop on this topic.
Oh, cool.
And that means that like I will actually show and share the templates that I was talking about. So if people want to join that, it's the conference has a ticket price, but otherwise everything within the conference is then part of that price. So I would really encourage, and like I would like to see more people coming there, because then I will share all this stuff and we will not just talk about it, we will also like look at it and people can actually take it with them home, and or they are then probably sitting at home. But so that would be like DrupalCon in December, but otherwise Twitter, Baddý Sonja. My email address, you hopefully will share that.
Yeah, I'll include that.
One Next Internet. So just LinkedIn. Anywhere, feel free to ask any question about this topic or anything else. I'm really happy to be able to be here.
Awesome. It was great to have you, Baddý. Thanks for the great talk and for sharing the great insights with us. Well, to our listeners, that's all for this episode. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to check out our other episodes, you can find all of them at agiledrop.com/podcast, as well as on all the most popular podcasting platforms. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes, and don't forget to share the podcast with your friends and colleagues.